Not the line you see when you're dying, not that line. I wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. So I have a real passion for a new specialty in medicine called lifestyle medicine. And I think if I were to be a doctor, that would have been my choice, although it's a very recent specialty. So today I have on Dr. Dipika Pandit. She actually works with my personal lifestyle medicine, plant-based doctor, the awesome Dr. Wayne Dysinger at Lifestyle Medicine. She can be your doctor in person or virtually. She is awesome. And today she's going to be talking about building resilience in the face of a pandemic. Please welcome her to the show. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Chef AJ. Thank you so much for the opportunity to just be on here. I'm excited to be a part of your community.
Well, I can't wait, because if you're working with Dr. Dysinger, that tells me right away it must be awesome. So I'm interested to learn, how did you, because you're not just a lifestyle medicine doctor, by the way, you're what I call a triple threat, as so many of the lifestyle medicine doctors are, double, triple, even quadruple board certified. You're also board certified in family medicine, preventive medicine. But I'd love to know your personal story, how you got interested in plant-based nutrition, lifestyle medicine, and how you came to work with Dr. Dysinger.
Sure. When I was in residency and even going through medical school, getting into residency, I think I always had a natural tendency to be interested in natural remedies. I wanted to be able to offer people safe and effective ways to really heal and get better. So I was interested in that, but honestly, there wasn't that much of lifestyle medicine education available at that time. And even after residency, I didn't get that much of it in residency, but after residency, I worked in an urgent care for a while, and I thought, let me think of how I want to actually approach this family medicine and go back into clinic. So I took my time to think about that. But my personal story, which I'm not going to go into detail here, is that I ended up getting sick myself. So I ended up getting Epstein-Barr virus, and I had to stop working for about a year because of how it just kind of knocked me down flat. And so I had to go through my own personal journey of whole person care, of really coming back up from that. And I realized how much our bodies and minds are so intricately woven, and how many different aspects of us contribute to health. So it's not just the body, it's not just what we eat, although that's an important part too. So I went to a program up in Northern California that was a 2.5-week program where I stayed there. And it was kind of a well-rounded program where you learn a lot about plant-based nutrition. And I started to learn how to cook and focus really on exercise and all the lifestyle things. And I started to get better from that. And then Dr. Dysinger was actually my program director in residency. And so around that time, when I used to work in the urgent care, I also moonlighted at a county hospital, a county clinic. And so he was there too. And he said, we're looking for another provider. What do you think? And so when I was ready to start working with him physically, then I reached out, and here I am 4 years later.
Wow, it must be very gratifying. Are you able to say the name of the place that you went to? It wasn't Weimar by any chance, was it?
It sure was. The New Start program at Weimar.
I've never been there, but I love that place. I've had Dr. Nedley on the show several times. It sounds like an amazing
okay. Place. Yes. Made such a big difference for me. Yeah.
That's really cool. Nice. Do you enjoy working for lifestyle medicine and with Dr. Dysinger?
I do. I honestly feel like this is my niche and where I'm supposed to be. When I first walked into the office to meet with Dr. Dysinger after he had started this practice, and I noticed I'm a person that's very much open to ambiance and kind of the feel of the place. It makes a big difference for me. And so I even walked into the clinic and I thought, this is what I've been wanting to do, because the walls were kind of painted a different, like a light color. It had a very relaxing feel to it. They had soft music going on. The exam rooms were more like living rooms where you feel comfortable, just sitting down and chatting. And so that was kind of the practice I had envisioned. And the philosophy that we actually go by is something that was near and dear to my heart. So I love it.
Maybe talk about that philosophy, because does that include the 6 pillars?
It does include, yes, the 6 pillars. So we've condensed the 6 pillars down to 4, and I'll share a little bit of that in my presentation as well. But the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine is basically the stress management and sleep, tobacco and alcohol, nutrition, exercise, and relationships, or connectedness. So those are the 6 pillars. So we condensed them into 4, and I can share that with you.
I can't wait to hear about that. I'd love to know a little bit. When did you, I assuming you're eating a plant-based diet. Am I correct in that assumption? Good. That's not a prerequisite for being on the show, but you do get bonus points. So when did that come to be in your life?
I have always been a vegetarian. I grew up a vegetarian, so I was what they call a lacto-ovo vegetarian. And so I started going more whole foods plant-based after I went to Weimar, actually, because even before that, I was trying to recover from the Epstein-Barr virus, and I was still vegetarian. But there is such a thing as a very unhealthy vegetarian, because you can eat a lot of processed foods, and there's not a lot of fruits and vegetables, and and you can still eat vegetarian food, but it's not healthy. And so I ended up going more whole foods plant-based after that experience, and noticed that the fiber, the increased fiber really made a big difference for me.
Well, you're right. You can be an unhealthy vegan even, and I was for about,
that's true.
about 43 years. So
yeah,
absolutely. Do you find that people emphasize one of the pillars more than others? Because I find that like diet is the one that people are always hammering, but the other ones are important too.
Absolutely. And I kind of have a passion for that, actually, because I know that it's easier to focus on diet. It's the thing that you can see. It's the thing that you can touch and do something about. But things like stress management and how to have relationships, these are not things that you can really touch and see. They're just kind of nebulous ideas. And how do you actually put it into practice? It's very difficult. And yet our practice really looks at looking at key causes of disease, and also promoting health, not just treating disease, but promoting health, promoting quality of life, making you feel alive. And when we look back at the root causes of a lot of chronic diseases in our country, and probably even around the world, about 80%, if you trace it back, is lifestyle related, first of all, which is those 6 pillars. But in my practice personally, I'm seeing a lot of people that really have a hard time with stress management and relationships, or they don't have much of a social support network, so those can be root causes of a lot of chronic disease as well. And honestly, I probably see maybe it's 50% or even more of that. Those are the root causes, not just food.
Right. I remember my very first appointment with Dr. Dicey. I'm used to going to the doctor, and you're lucky if you get 5 minutes. It was an hour. I mean, he's asking me, well, how are your relationships? And I've never had a doctor ask me what I eat, what I do for exercise. And one of the reasons I like to do these shows and highlight lifestyle medicine doctors is people are always emailing us through our website. Well, do you know a vegan doctor? And the answer is yes, I do. And you definitely, if you are vegan or plant-based, I would encourage you to find one. But even if you can't, at least find a lifestyle medicine doctor, because it makes all the difference in the world.
Yes, it absolutely does. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that we spend an hour with everybody to begin with, but we do spend way more time than average doctors. Our appointment slots are about 20 to 30 minutes.
Maybe it just felt like an hour.
Yeah.
I don't want Dr. Dicey to take that the wrong way. But the point was, and what was so great is, unless I have something he needs to see, like maybe an ear infection, I can do all now that we've had the meet and greet and I'm established, we do our appointments like this. It's like so great.
Yes. We like to be available to our patients. So we actually have different ways of being accessible. So by video, we can even do phone visits. We can do email visits. We've got what's called Carium now, which is kind of like a portal where you can put your blood pressure and sugar and weight and things like that online. It's kind of like an app that you put on your phone, and then I can see it. here, and you can even message me directly through that. It's like texting, so we really value being in contact and relationship with our patients constantly.
Yeah, and like if I have a question, I can email and
Yes.
like it's back to me within 24 hours. That's pretty awesome. I got it. And you have all those other things. You have all these classes. I've never really done the ones except for I do the cooking class sometimes, but you have so much more than just the doctor visits.
Mm-hmm. We have support groups, which is one of the huge things, for people to feel like they're healing, is to have a support group around you and everyone supporting each other. So we do have those, which are now online. So they used to be in person before the pandemic, and now they're all online. We're hoping to start in person again, but for the people who live in different states, online is really great because they still have access to that. And then we also have a nutritionist, and we were doing some of the nutrition, like a nutrition group where you would learn more about nutrition from the dietitian. We have a social worker who helps with maybe some stress management tips or resources in the community that you may need. So, and then we have the cooking class, and we also have a resiliency group. And so that's online as well, where you kind of learn how to meditate and other ways of managing stress.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you talked about building resilience. What exactly is resilience, and how do we build it in general, but how do we specifically build it during these challenging COVID times?
Mm-hmm. I have a slide on that particularly, but in a short form, basically, resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficulties. It's not the ability to avoid difficulties, because we can't avoid them, but it's the ability that if something happens to you or things that you cannot control in your life that causes stress, you have the ability to be able to handle that. And I think the pandemic has caused so much stress in a lot of our lives. And how do we handle all of that? How do we give our minds and bodies the ability to really come through with that strong?
Do you think that resiliency partly is genetic? Because you see people that have been through just, horrible things that seem to bounce back, and other people, they break a nail and it's an emergency.
I think a part of it could be genetic, but honestly, that it's the nature versus nurture, right? So how much is it really what you're born with, and how much is it that that you learn? But the reality is, a lot of, even when you're in the womb, right, there's certain genes and ways of handling things. When you come out, like even as a baby, you're picking up on signals. Your neural system is developing even as a baby, even as an infant. You're picking up on things in the ways that your parents actually handle things, on what's going on around you. If the environment is stressful around you, even nuanced stress, then the infant can feel that too. So there's a lot of when you're actually growing up, things that you pick up as you are growing up. And so it's difficult to tell, well, is it actually in my genes, or is it that my environment just was kind of that way as I was growing up? Once you come to the age where you can actually be more aware of how you're making decisions and things actually happen to you, then we know for sure it's a choice that you can make. But a lot of those coping skills, even can start developing as early as when you're even an infant, maybe even sooner.
Wow. And you have some tricks for us to increase resiliency?
I have a few that I can share here, but honestly, there are so many, which is really good news, right? It's a lot of hope. So I can share a couple here.
Thank you. Did you want to share your slides now?
Sure, I'm ready to. All right, so I will share my screen, and we will go from the beginning here. Can you see this?
Building resilience in the face of a pandemic.
All right, perfect. All right, well, we talked about lifestyle medical, which is the practice I am currently at. This is actually our Riverside location. So we are primary care, And we have a foundation in lifestyle medicine, but we actually do a lot of primary care. And we're able to look at the root causes, and I'm interested in your quality of life, and I want you to really, do well with, to be at your best self instead of just treating disease. So that's kind of our MO. We already talked about that. So. But you were interested, Chef AJ, in those, in the pillars, the lifestyle pillars. So here we've actually, in our practice, we've condensed it down to 4. So one is nourishment, which is food, beverages, tobacco, alcohol, drugs, or any chemicals even that you could have been exposed to, anything that goes into your body. So we categorize all of that under nourishment. And then movement is exercise and circulation in your body. Resilience is sleep management, stress management, and rest and rejuvenation in general. And connectedness is the relationships with your family, friends, neighbors, community, and spiritually. So today, I will be focusing on the resilience aspect of things. But these 4 areas and pillars are what we assess our patients every time they have a visit with us. And you kind of rate yourself how you're feeling like you're doing on these areas. And so we can pick up areas that we need to focus on more and help you optimize all of these areas as well. The outline of just things we're going to talk about today. What is resilience? The biology of stress, what happens in our bodies and minds. And I'll give you 3 tools to build resilience, and maybe an extra one. And then we'll have some question and answer time after that. So what is resilience? We kind of talked about this with Chef AJ had already asked me this. So I wanted to show you this picture because it's really interesting, where it's kind of like this tree that's been faced by a big gust of wind. And the factors that make this tree able to bounce back from this gust of wind, it's interesting that a part of it is the flexibility of the tree. Are the branches able to be flexible enough to bend, right, without breaking? That's one aspect of the resilience. And then the other part is how thick the trunk is. So how strong the trunk is. But then an even bigger part also is the root system. How deep does it go? How wide does it go to keep it anchored and structured in the ground so that it's not torn over and uprooted by the big gust of wind. So resilience is the ability to develop these different aspects that actually keep you from breaking because of stress. I'm trying to move to the next slide here. There we go. I found actually these pictures of how you can see resilience in nature. This is so fascinating. So this is called the Tree of Life on the left-hand side at Olympic National Park in Washington. And look at how the roots of the tree are exposed to the hot sun and not a lot of soil or nutrition, and yet it's still thriving. And that's so amazing to me to see how nature can show us resilience. And then the picture on the right is this tree that kind of fell over and was uprooted, but it said, I'm not done yet. And so it grew 4 more trees out of there. And so that gives me encouragement and hope, even for us, that we can build resilience as well. So what happens in the stress of a pandemic? What's actually been happening to us a lot? We've been going through grief over losing people in many ways, either maybe some of our family members or friends, or we know people who have died. Our relationships may have been affected because of the strain and stress. And so we're kind of grieving over things like that as well. We're grieving over certain coping mechanisms that we used to have, like being able to go to Hawaii, or even, hop on a plane and go somewhere, being able to go to movie theaters and amusement parks and concerts and events, things like that. even the ability to spend time outside. If there's a lot of people, like that used to be a really good coping mechanism. We don't have that anymore. Touch and connection. Touch is so huge. And the connection with people, to see them face to face, with not just the face, not just the eyes, but the whole face. We're kind of lost that coping mechanism as well. Structure and reliability. So our bodies and our minds get used to certain routines. And so now if we're staying home instead of working in the office, now we don't have a routine anymore. And that can be really stressful for our body as well. And losing jobs, it's not just losing money. It feels like a loss of kind of purpose. And who am I? Am I valuable? Am I really somebody that can contribute to society? So there's a lot of loss with that. Then we've got increased demands from parents who are homeschooling their children right now, more demands on our attention and our body to be able to sit and watching screens a lot for work and even for social activities, doing Zoom calls and things like that. And then we're afraid of the future. That's one of the big things of what causes stress, because the uncertainty of, we don't know what's actually going to happen for sure in the future. And the news, it doesn't really help with that. It can help with that, but a lot of news tends to put out a lot of bad stuff that's kind of happening. And I know there's good stuff that's happening, but for whatever reason, they ended up putting up more of the bad things that are happening too. And so that can cause stress. We're worried about our health and of course finances for maybe losing jobs. How do we balance everything? So then we start to have new coping mechanisms, which in a sense, we feel like they're coping, we're helping us cope short term, but really over long term, they're probably more stress to our lives. So like comfort food, we really want those chips and popcorn and, all those processed foods, cookies and crackers. We tend to reach for those to help us feel better. And over the long term, that's actually stress for the body. And we'll talk about that. Resting on the couch, binge watching, there's not a lot of exercise. So that's kind of been the stress that we've all been going through, and things are getting better now. They're starting to open up a whole lot more. Maybe even it feels like in some places we're almost back to normal. But then we're not done with the pandemic as well. We hope we are, but we're still in it. So how do we actually cope with that? Now, I do want to say that there's such a thing as good stress. So you can see at the bottom here from this picture that you've got to open up a whole lot more, maybe even stress on, you've got the stress all the way from the left to the right. So the amount of stress that you're actually experiencing. And then on the vertical side is your ability to function. And the green area is the optimal stress level. That's when you are on top of your game. You're your best self. If you have less stress than that, which means you may have lost your job and now you don't know what to do with yourself. You're bored. You have all this time in your hands. There's no deadlines. There's nothing really pushing you to do anything. That can actually be a stress also on your body. And then, of course, on the other end, if it's too much, then you can have too stress. So we want to aim for the middle part where we can actually have adequate amount of stress so that we're functioning at our best. We touched a little bit on this already. Why am I, as a doctor, talking about stress and resilience when there are most doctors that don't? They function more in treating your conditions with medications or referrals to specialists, but why am I interested in that? And specifically, it's when you're stressed, your body and mind are physiologically affected, and you don't feel good. So if my goal is to give you the best quality of life, to help you get there, then we need to address that, the fact that you don't feel good. So you miss out on being the best version of yourself, and I really want to help you be that. This is what happens between acute and chronic stress in your body. When you go through an acute stress, for example, you you're hiking in the woods and you come across a bear. What happens is that this picture shows these specific parts of your body, the hypothalamus and pituitary gland in your brain, and the adrenal cortex are glands that sit on top of your kidneys. So these three areas in your body kind of communicate with each other to release certain types of hormones and chemicals, specifically adrenaline and cortisol, that really help your body, it prepares your body to keep itself safe. So your eyes will get dilated and all the blood will rush to your muscles so that you can have enough energy to run from the bear. And so this is your body's way of keeping you safe. It says, I see a threat. I'm going to do all this so that you can do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe. And it works well in acute stress. The problem is that with chronic stress, which is what we've all been going through with this pandemic, all those hormones that are released is not something that our body can maintain, those chemicals. You can't keep running from a bear forever. You know, your body just can't maintain that. But what happens is with chronic stress, these same types of chemicals start to cause inflammation in the body. So you have more of the inflammatory cytokines that are released in your body. You also have free radicals and oxidants that are created due to chronic stress. And here's a picture of a free radical for those people who love chemistry out there. Free radical is this molecule you can see here that loves to have these little paired electrons. See those little couplets of electrons, but one of them goes missing and it becomes a free radical. So now it's missing an electron and it's highly unstable and very unhappy. And these are the things that start causing problems in your body. It can actually cause destruction and damage to body tissue, to DNA. All kinds of things can happen because of this. And I want to keep this in mind. The free radicals will come back to that, and oxidants as well, because there's such a thing as antioxidants, which we will come to. So this is what happens with chronic stress. And I've had to ask myself, why is it that it feels like our bodies are kind of turning against us when we go through chronic stress? Why does it do all this crazy reaction? Why is it going crazy? And I almost feel like it's because it's kind of like a help signal, like an SOS help signal to let us know that you need to do something. We need help here. Please do something. We're not feeling good. Because how does stress show up in your body? Hair loss, chronic fatigue, depression, irritable. You feel irritable with everybody. Anything makes you upset. Trouble sleeping. You can't remember certain words or where you put your keys. You know, all of a sudden you're thinking, am I getting dementia? Trouble concentrating, brain fog, where you just cannot focus well. Muscle aches and chronic pain in general can be from stress. Headaches, stomach pain, bloating, and all kinds of stomach issues, GI issues, skin issues, problems with libido and sex in general. And a whole host of chronic diseases can show up because your body and your minds are stressed. So that is an introduction to what happens when we are stressed. Now, what do we do about it? Because our body is screaming for help. So I'm going to give you 3 tools. 1, build your support network. 2, stay in the present moment. 3, increase your happy hormones. So those are the 3 I'm going to focus in detail. But before we do that, I'm going to add one more, because I know Chef AJ is really good with telling us what to eat. You know, she does such a great job. So I want to highlight the physiology of that too. Eat good foods. We'll talk about that. Now, exercise and sleep and the other lifestyle pillars also help so much with stress management. We just don't have time to cover everything today. So I'll focus on those 3 tools. And the foods. Antioxidants, a lot of it comes from foods. So look at this picture here. We talked about the free radical. When you're stressed, all these highly unstable molecules are going crazy in your body. Antioxidants are made of these little negative ions and electrons, and they donate one to the free radical and calms it down. I think that's so amazing that our bodies can do this. And so the more antioxidants that you stock up on in your body, whenever you feel stressed, these antioxidants help to calm them down. And I found it interesting, brings a whole new meaning to comfort food, because what we think is comfort food is actually not really comforting our body. The things that have antioxidants are comforting our body. And those include things like fruits and vegetables. We'll talk about that. But antioxidant levels can plummet within 2 hours of a stressful event. It doesn't take much, but it takes days to build up. So it's helpful to maintain the antioxidant levels in your body. And how do you do that? So here's some examples from food. Now, I think there are other ways too, other than just food, but berries are one of the higher levels that have antioxidants: cherries, plums and prunes, artichokes, dark leafy greens, red beans and pinto beans, and pecans. Basically, foods with darker, richer colors tend to have antioxidants. Now, I know we normally don't call these comfort foods when we look at them, but in reality, they are the ones that tend to comfort our body more. All right, so let's talk about building your support network as the first way of building resilience. I don't think a lot of us have actually stopped and thought about who is there for me, who is there to support me and take care of me. I think there's many of us that are probably, that may not, if you stop and think about it, that you may not have anyone in your life. You've been maybe giving so much of yourself to everybody that you don't have the ability, you don't have anybody really giving to you as well. But support is one of the biggest things that's really important in health. 50% of people who 50 people who do not have strong social support in general were 50% more likely to die from illness than those who actually had support. And now people are those that build your support network. So I know there are some people that say, well, I don't like people in general. I've had bad experiences. I don't trust people, but the reality is if we can build safe, trusted relationships with people, that is actually very protective. So here's an example, of who could potentially be your support network. So for a lot of our patients who don't have anybody, our practice does offer some of that support. And we already talked about some of this. We offer the support groups, the health coach, the dietitian, and the social worker. And so we can start off being a bit of a support for you. And then you can find your own support network. And here's some ideas. You can join a club. Meetup.com was a great place before the pandemic, actually, where you can find groups of people with shared interests. So you can find people who are interested in photography or hiking or crafting or sports or whatever, So this is online. There's also book clubs if you want to form it with people, sports clubs. Social media can have some groups, although that can be a bit questionable because there is research that shows spending too much time on social media can also be detrimental instead of helpful. So you can find the helpful parts of the social media. And then you can join a spiritual network like a church or a temple or whatever it is that you find yourself that you believe in, a shared set of beliefs with people. And that can be a support network as well. Mini connections is kind of a term that I probably coined, as I like to call it that, because, and I put a star by that because they are a big predictor of longevity when they've done studies and they show, what is it that really helps people live long? And one of the biggest things that shows up is little tiny connections. As you move along your day, how do you interact with people? So do you actually look at people? Do you make eye contact? Do you smile? Do you say hi? Do you wave? You don't have to go into deep conversation with them. It's just a tiny bit of a connection. Just making eye contact with somebody has benefits in your body. And if you make eye contact and smile, it's amazing how good you will feel. And the other person, you may not even realize the other person will smile right back as well. And it makes them feel good too. And you've got benefits from both sides for that. If you're in line for the grocery store and you say hi to the cashier, and you're running errands and you just say hi to somebody else, or wave. These types of mini connections, as you go through your day, can add up and make a huge positive difference and build resilience. And if you feel like, again, you don't have anybody in your life at all that can be there for you, you can take the initiative to either invite someone over into your life and your home that you find interesting and you think might be a potential somebody that you want to connect with for support. If you are not comfortable inviting someone to your home, then at least take the initiative to call somebody or do something with them outside of your home. So these are examples of building your support network. It takes time to build relationships and to build the network where you feel supported adequately, but it's well worth the effort if you put that time into it. 2, practice mindfulness, or be aware of the present moment. Stay in the present moment. What is mindfulness? You can see the difference right here. The human being on the left is mindful, F-U-L-L, because their mind is full of all kinds of things that they're thinking about. And they could be thinking about what happened in the past and kind of afraid of what happened in the past, or going over those thoughts again and again, or they may be worried about what's going to happen in the future. And that's what we tend to do. It's very easy for our minds to think about everything else except what's happening right now, which is what the dog is doing. The dog is looking at the trees and the sun, and that's about it. It is not stressed. Children are really good at also being mindful. They're just in the present moment. And you can notice that children and babies, they laugh way more than adults do because they are in the present moment. I'm going to challenge you, if you can allow yourself to practice mindfulness or stay in the present moment at least 10 minutes a day. If it's too hard, start with 1 minute a day. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of how to do this. But mindfulness in many different forms has actually shown that they've done a lot of studies on mindfulness, has been shown to reduce chronic pain, decrease anxiety, depression, and many other benefits just from that. Here's one example, staying in the present moment. It's an exercise, and it's something that you have to practice because your mind is not used to staying in the present moment. So this is soft belly breathing. And you can do it with me. So you'd have to breathe in for 4 seconds. So take a deep breath and breathe in all the way. Because when you're anxious or stressed, you don't breathe all the way. You kind of breathe shallow. You pause for about 4 seconds and then breathe out through your mouth. Make a little O and breathe out for 8 seconds. And the key here is to relax while you're breathing out. Just relax all your muscles and just go just loosey-goosey. And then do it again. Breathe in, pause, and breathe out and relax. Because you are sending a message to your body to be comforted because of the stress that you've been facing. The soft belly portion of it is just to remember, as you breathe in, your lungs push down and your belly goes out. And then as you breathe out, soften the belly and let the air go out. So that's a little bit of an advanced. If it's too hard for you, just focus on the breathing in and breathing out. So you can practice that. Even set a timer. There's mindfulness apps that can help you with that. The second way is the senses. I call it the senses really, is to immerse yourself in the present moment through your senses. So look at this picture. We're going to do a little exercise here. What do you see? Well, I see oranges, I see a blue jacket, I see grapes, cucumbers, I see the green and white stripes of the little umbrella thingies. What can you touch? Well, if I touch a banana, what does it feel like? It's kind of like, you know, a firmer. I can touch the plastic of the oranges. What does that feel like? What do you hear? And I can imagine, I can hear people talking, making deals, just chatting. I can hear people lifting boxes. What can you smell? When looking at this picture even, you know, but when you're in that moment, can you smell all the different types of smells? And then of course, taste. So if you buy something and you actually put it in your mouth, pay attention to what it actually tastes like. And it's amazing how if you practice this, you're giving your mind and your body the ability to build resilience because it's not focused on all the other stressors out there. Number 3 is increasing happy hormones. You might have seen this graphic floating around the internet. I love it. It's a simple way of putting the 4 happy hormones. So dopamine, which is the reward chemical, and some of the examples of how to increase dopamine in your body: completing a task, doing self-care activities, celebrating little wins, eating specific types of foods. And then oxytocin is the love hormone. Playing with a dog, so petting a dog can release oxytocin in your body. Playing with a baby releases oxytocin in your body. But it also helps the dog and it helps the baby too. Holding hands, hugging your family, or just a hug in general. If you hug someone for longer than 20 seconds, one long hug, a decent amount of oxytocin is released in your body, provides a lot of comfort and builds resilience. Interestingly enough, giving compliments, so not just receiving them, but giving someone a compliment helps you. Serotonin is the mood stabilizer. You can get this from meditating, exercise, being outside, exposed to the sun and nature. And endorphin is the painkiller, which you can get from laughing and smelling essential oils, dark chocolate and exercising. These are just some examples. There's many different ways. But the key point that I want to bring from increasing your happy hormones, just notice what brings you comfort and happiness. If you notice that when you're playing with your child, it makes you feel good, then do that more often. If you notice that going to a park really makes you feel calm, then do that more often. If you know that watching the news, you pay attention to how you feel after you watch the news and you're feeling a bit stressed out, then don't do it as much. So just pay attention to how you feel when you're doing certain activities, and that'll give you an idea of what works for you to build resilience. So in summary, we've learned that pandemic stress and stress in generally physiologically causes changes in your body and mind, and it doesn't make you feel good at all. You're not your best self, but you can develop resilience to bounce back through exercise, sleeping, eating well with antioxidants, but specifically the 3 key areas that I mentioned, 3 tips of the many: building your support network, finding those people for you, staying in the present moment through breathing and the senses, and noticing what makes you calm and happy, and doing those things by increasing your happy hormones. And then you can be like this tree, which fell over and decided, no, I'm not done yet, and just curved right back up. So I'm hoping that's what would happen with you as well. And that is the end of my talk. I will share here now in our practice, we have, I am a provider, Dr. Deisinger is. We also have Andrew, who is a PA, and then Dr. Ryan Herring will be joining us soon as well. And I'm sure we'll expand in the future too. But this is our information if you are interested in joining us.
Yeah, and do you still do the free consult that you used to? It says it on your
I
website.
do. We do what's called a meet and greet. So it is a free about 15 to 20-minute session that you can have with any of our providers. I think Dr. Deisinger's schedule is a bit more full, but for sure, I have some openings and Andrew does, and then we're having Dr. Herring join soon as well. So he will definitely have openings.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, are all the providers going to stay in the Riverside area, or can you move a little bit more east and come to Indio where I am?
It would be lovely if we could expand. You know, one of the things that we're doing in our practice is to try to find out how we can build a business model to practice this way and grow. So we are still in that process of doing it. So we would love to. I'm not sure what our specific plans are for the future. I think the pandemic set us back a bit too, but we're still growing. So
Well,
right now, yeah.
Did you want to take the slides off so we can see you a little bit bigger if you're done with the slides? It's still 45 minutes isn't terrible, but that would be so cool if you guys were Eisenhower. There's really no lifestyle medicine in the desert. It's sad because
Really?
there's so many sick people here that could use it, but maybe it's because they're all old and they feel they're not going to change anyway. So yeah.
That's actually not true.
Really?
Yes. I've seen a lot of people even in their 70s and 80s. And I used to think that way too. I thought, no, you're kind of set in your ways, you know, but I'm seeing people in their 70s and 80s that are going whole foods plant-based and actually making changes and drinking more water and they're doing so much better. And I thought, wow, that's really nice. Gives you hope. You can actually improve your quality of life no matter how old you are.
I mean, I had one lady that I work with, it changed in her 90s and outlived 2 of her 3 children. But
Yeah.
Maybe it's just where I live in my own particular community. I don't see a lot of interest in health. So that's the one thing. If I miss anything about LA, was there seems to be more like-minded people. What's the best part about your job?
The best part? Oh, I mean, there's a lot of good parts about my job. I just really look forward to seeing people improve. And sometimes it's a slower process for some people because they've been through so much. They need more of just stability and support in the beginning before they start to make some changes. But that's one of the biggest things that I really look forward to. I love to give people hope that you don't have to take a whole bunch of medications and feel trapped with your diseases. You can actually feel better. And I love my team. I love working with my team. I love the environment of the office. We're like a family, so.
Did you work anywhere else prior to that? Like the hospital grind?
Yeah.
Like that?
I was working at the urgent care for about 2.5 years, I think it was, before I took the year off, and then I started with this practice. So yeah, I was working full-time in the urgent care, but that was kind of temporary because I knew I wanted to do primary care with lifestyle.
So as a lifestyle medicine doctor, do you practice what you preach? What lifestyle habits do you employ on a daily basis?
That's a good question. And I am completely honest with the fact that lifestyle is not something that you feel like you can attain and reach and kind of maintain 100%. It's an ongoing process. You may do really well for some time, and then you could potentially have a setback, and that's okay as long as you get back on the wagon too. So there are things that I still am working on for myself. So I'm not 100% there as well, but I think the things that I have been focusing on quite a bit is the whole foods plant-based diet. And I do have some dairy and occasionally, but I'm not 100%, but I'm mostly whole foods plant-based. And then exercise is one of the big things that I've kind of been focusing on for myself to make sure that I get the 150 minutes per week. So slowly working my way up there. And I personally have probably started focusing on my support network over the past, I think since the pandemic started. That's probably when I started to pay more attention to my support network. So that's just some examples of how I personally am practicing it.
Nice. Well, I love that you threw in dogs there quite a bit, or pets, because I think they're I don't know how people survive in this day and age without a pet.
Yeah, I have a dog that I got maybe a couple of years ago. He just landed up in my backyard actually. And I thought, well, I guess God sent him to me. But he has been such a huge blessing. I mean, just has made such a big difference. I would say he's probably increased my resilience quite a bit just by being himself. So yeah, you can go get a pet. You can go get a pet and just increase resilience that way.
What's nice about them is they're always in the moment.
Yes, they know how to practice mindfulness real well.
Right.
Yeah.
So if people, what do people need to look for when they're looking for a lifestyle medicine doctor? Because, you know, any specialty could be certified in lifestyle medicine, but not all of them might be family.
Yes.
You know, yeah, I mean, like, for example, you probably wouldn't go to an anesthesiologist just in general, unless you were having surgery, but they could be certified in lifestyle medicine. So is there like an organization that people can look up to see to see if a doctor, if they don't, for whatever reason, want to see you in person or virtually, where they could find a lifestyle medicine doctor?
Yes, there's the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So you can just go to their website and wherever you are, wherever you're living, you know, you can try to find someone in that specific area. We are growing. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine, our annual conferences every year, the attendees have just been growing by leaps and bounds. So this message is this movement is becoming bigger. And so you're going to have more access to somebody who practices lifestyle medicine as time goes on. So right now, I'm not sure how many providers there are, and you have the ability to become board certified in lifestyle medicine too. So, so right now you can look and see in that specific area on the website, American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and see whether there's someone close to you, or you can join us virtually if you have Medicare. So I think that right now that's what we're taking.
But also, could somebody see you virtually if they lived in California and didn't have Medicare, or it had only Medicare for virtual right now?
I think for right now it's, actually we do have, you know, to be honest, I'm not quite sure how that works because
I know once you're a patient, you can do virtual.
Yes, so we have the opportunity to become a member of our clinic as direct primary care, and that is a set amount per month that that you can pay us, and that includes the access to all those resources like the dietitian and the groups and cooking classes and all of that, and the extra time with the provider as well, and the access through phone visits and the video visits, and so you can do that. We probably won't be able to order any lab tests or things like that, but if you want to keep a primary doctor that's local as well for things like ordering labs or x-rays or things like that, then we can still do the lifestyle portion of things. So yes, that is available.
Great. Wasn't Dr. Dysinger a past president of the American College of Lifestyle?
Yes, he was. Yes, and now he is the president or the chief of the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine. So he's heavily involved in that too, which helps with credentialing people. Yeah.
Wow, I would love to take that test just to see if I could pass.
You should.
I know, but it's expensive, isn't it? It's like thousands of dollars, I think.
I don't recall how much it was for me. I think I did mine maybe about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not sure if it depends on what type of professional you are, whether there's a cheaper price or not.
Wow, I just think it would be fun to see how much I know. So Lisa says, are lifestyle medicine and functional medicine the same?
No, there's a bit of a difference. And there's some confusion there's functional medicine, there's naturopathic medicine, which is over on this side. I'm going to just do it continuing here. Naturopathic, then there's functional medicine, then there's integrative medicine, And then there's lifestyle medicine and allopathic medicine all the way at the end. So the naturopaths are the ones that believe just in only natural. They don't really believe in prescription medications and procedures and things like that. And then on this end is the allopathic, which most of your doctors are, this is what we're trained in medical school, which is basically prescriptions and surgical procedures. There's procedures and referrals and specialists. And that's what we're really trained in. So the difference between functional and lifestyle is the functional focuses a lot on the internal processes of the body, the specific chemistry and the biology of it, and says, well, if the root cause is this particular molecule, then let me give you this particular molecule back so that actually helps that process. So it can be helpful in some cases because it is trying to look at root causes as well, but they tend to focus a whole lot on supplements because they're trying to replace those specific things. And I think the lifestyle medicine focuses on treatments that cover several areas at once instead of just one particular area. So, exercise has benefits in many aspects of your life. Sleeping has many benefits and, different parts of your life. And you're not really having to pay for supplements that way. So there can be some benefit to functional medicine doctors as well. So there's a whole spectrum of what you can see.
Mm-hmm. Right. I get it. That makes sense. Well, let's see if there's any more questions. This has been very wonderful. Do you and Dr. Dipika work in the same office, or I know you have 2 locations. So does one work at one while the other one's working at the other? Is that how you cover your bases?
Well, yes, we have 2 locations. One is in Redlands, California, and the other one's in Riverside. And they're about half an hour away from each other. And so Dr. Deisinger and I go to both locations, actually. So some days I'm at Riverside, some days I'm at Redlands, and the same for him. So to be honest, physically, I don't see him very much at all. But in the near future, I think we've changed our schedules more so that we might be working both at the same clinic some days. So that'll be nice.
That's great. Hey, do you want to just tell us what you eat and what you do for exercise? People are always interested in hearing that from our guests.
Okay. So what do I eat? Okay. My typical breakfast, I make a huge batch of oatmeal. And I make it kind of for the whole week. And so I use steel cut oats, which is, the least type of processed oats. I guess oat groats are the very least processed, but steel cut is good enough. And I usually will soak it for about 5 or 6 hours because then it doesn't take 45 minutes to cook. So it just only takes about 10 minutes to cook. And then I add flaxseed. So I grind up the flaxseed and I add that in there. I add a bunch of chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, and maybe some protein powder, but sometimes not even that. And occasionally I may add a little bit of organic blackstrap molasses that has like the potassium and the magnesium, and that helps to sweeten it just a little bit. But sometimes I don't do that as well. So my big batch of oatmeal is what I make and I keep. And then I add, when I add some water and I mix it in the morning, then I add fruit to it, usually to make it sweeter. So I'll add blueberries. My berries are big for me. I'll add berries, raspberries, strawberries, or any other type of fruit. And then sometimes if I tend to have a sweet tooth, so if I want a little bit extra, I'll add like dates, which can give you some fiber as well. So that's my breakfast that I usually have regularly. And then lunch and dinner, it just depends. Those tend to vary. Like if I use pasta, if I make pasta, I'll try to get the quinoa or brown rice type of pasta and kind of make my own sauce from that. Or you can, Indian food is one of the big things that I tend to cook. And I know you're big on like no oil at all, which is really difficult for Indian food, but so I use a tiny bit of oil as much as the least needed.
Oh, there's lots of great Indian chefs that I've had on the show.
Really? Oh, I'd love to find out more about that. So I'm learning a lot about this too. So yes, because I do eat a lot of Indian food too, which in general, the ingredients are very healthy. It has a lot of turmeric to it, which is great for inflammation in the body. And then if I do choose to get something from the stores, then I usually will go to places like Subway, where you can actually get vegetables and or get there's a store called Plant Power Fast Food here in Redlands actually, and they actually have fast food that is plant-based. And so I don't go very often, but if I do, then I choose those types of places to actually get my food from.
Do you have time to exercise being a busy doctor?
I do. I do. I have been making more time. So the gym started opening up again. So I actually signed up for a personal trainer this time. So I'm working on that, which has been really helpful. But for me personally, I actually like exercise. I know there's a lot of people that don't enjoy it really, but I've always kind of been the type of person that found benefit from it and really used to enjoy it. So the specific things that I like to do, I like to dance. And so I'll find YouTube videos, or I used to even go out to places where they do dancing, like salsa, and you can even take a class if you want, to go salsa dancing or line dancing, and Indian dancing. So I've got some videos that I usually use for that. And then I like to use the elliptical or the treadmill, or I have to take my dog out for a walk. So that is not negotiable. He makes me get out there. So I take him out to the park and we walk around a lot and I play with him. So those are forms of exercise too. I like to hike. And explore places with beautiful scenery. So those are my forms of exercise.
Well, that sounds great. Well, so you practice what you preach.
Oh, well, thank you. We're all in the growing process. So yes, I'm working on it just like everyone else.
Yeah. There's a lot of YouTubers that actually are Indian. I'll be having a few on the show coming up, at least 2. And then I've had Darshana Thakur, the chef for Forks Over Knives, and they do completely oil-free. So it is possible. And they're Indian too. So
that's amazing. That's exciting to hear about.
Yeah. So Apple wants to know, how does Ayurveda compare to lifestyle medicine?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm actually not too familiar with Ayurvedic medicine. I think from what I probably do know more about it, it may be similar to functional medicine in that it's focusing on the physiology and the details of the body, but I'm not too familiar with Ayurvedic medicine. It does sound fascinating, though. I'd love to know more about it. I'm always open, even if there are things that are not evidence-based necessarily, because they haven't done a lot of research in certain areas. I'm still open to learning about ways to treat the body and heal the body, because it's possible that we just haven't done enough research to prove the evidence. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work at all. So yeah, I'd be open to learning about that. I think I've had my hands full with medical school and residency and then learning lifestyle medicine afterwards. So in the future.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to know you better. It's good to know that more and more doctors are doing this and that you're expanding your practice. And guys, check out lifestyle medicine. It is so great. I'm telling you, get yourself a lifestyle medicine doctor.
Thank you so much, Chef AJ. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been so nice to meet you. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow at the special time of 9 a.m. when my guest will be broadcasting from Mexico. It's Dr. Fabiola Flores Mancibes. I hope I said that right. And she's going to be doing a presentation on culinary medicine. And I think there might be some cooking involved. Thanks again, Dr. Pandit. Say hi to
Thank you.